Hello, everybody. This is your host, Mia. Thank you for tuning in and listening to another episode of the one and only Soul Wave Podcast. Enjoy. So this is a continuation / part 2 of the podcast from the week before, where I shared my experience with sexual assault. So if you haven't checked that out, I would go listen to that one first before listening to this one, because I'm sure I'm going to be referencing a lot of things that I previously had mentioned. I think it's important to get the foundation, the background, And I guess I will say again, trigger warning. If you don't think you're in the right mindset or headspace to listen to something like this, you know yourself the best, click off. However, I do encourage to maybe keep on listening, because I think you'll really gain some clarity or some help, or just realize you're not alone in this hard world. So I want to get back to the emotions I felt after this event, because it was so many. It was so many. Some that I didn't even realize that were there until I linked it after the fact. And I feel like more time that passes, I'm sure I'll find more hidden and related to this event. But I did discuss feeling a lot of shame on the previous episode that I'm going to dive more into, because no one talks about it. I had no idea what shame was until a year and a half ago, 2 years maybe. And the predominant emotion that most of us feel that keep us from becoming the best version of ourselves is shame. And it is a shame. I wish people talked about it more, because if more people knew about it, I feel like this world would be unstoppable. That's probably why they don't talk about it. I'm not going to get into that now, though. That's an episode down the line. But I've become really familiar with this emotion. I say to my friends and my family, or whoever, spiritual people, when we talk about stuff like this, I'm like, if there's two emotions I feel like I know the most, it's shame and grief. I am so familiar. I can, as soon as it comes in, I'm like, yep, that's exactly what I'm feeling right now. And shame is a huge one tied to this deeply traumatic experience. It's one of the longest lasting effects, in my opinion, emotionally. And so when I started to research about sexual assault and victims, and even through my Reiki clients who were molested, especially at such a young age, is that there's a tendency to self-blame, that it was our fault. Kind of like misguided guilt, maybe through the perpetrator's manipulation in some cases, or for me, a big one was societal misconceptions, or believing that I could have somehow prevented it. And I think this is what really made me spiral throughout the summer after that. These were all the emotions, well, just one emotion, but all the thoughts that were bubbling underneath the surface. Even though the responsibility lies solely with the abuser and the person who did it. And that's when I want to take the time to shout out my male friends, because I swear without them, I would have given up on men a long time ago. They have been a constant beam of light and hope for me, really showing me that there are good men out there that genuinely care and would not by any means use a woman like how I was used. And they reassured me that. And through their presence alone of just being upstanding individuals, honestly, they helped heal me so much. And I cannot thank them enough, even though I think I never even said that to them, and I should. And I'm very blessed to say that I have amazing male friends around me. Oh, just wonderful guys, truly. Because I think also after this event, I had extreme trust issues. I mean, how could you not, right? I questioned my judgment. I questioned my ability to protect myself. You hear a lot about women becoming hypersexual after an experience like that, and I can understand why, 100%. I wasn't hypersexual. I swore off men for a while, but I was chasing men who clearly did not want anything to do with me for attention because I really just wanted to know that I was worthy, and if they liked me back and they showed up and all that, then that would make me feel worthy. Even though we never had any like deep connections or meaningful conversations, it was just some surface level bullshit. That's what I felt that I was only worthy of. Like the dopamine hit would be so severe because I thought all I had to offer was my looks. Which is why I can understand some women become hypersexual, is because they only feel worthy when a man sleeps with them. And I remember also feeling that phase too, but that was like way before even being sexually assaulted. That was just coming out of like my first relationship and just wanting to be loved, I guess. I had like huge difficulty trusting others so this was the summer after that event happened, which was April, and then June I tore my ACL. So that whole entire summer, man, it was like a one after another, like a double whammy. Like girls getting slammed. I think it's called high functioning depression. Because I would go home every night and I would just severely struggle in my mind, but I would still have to show up in society. I would still have to work, still had bills to pay, and then I'd even go out on the weekends because, I enjoy that. I still enjoy that. But it offered momentarily relief from the voices in my head. But even when I left, I went home and they were still there. But I never felt like I could really connect with these people, the ones I called my friends around me, because I had this blockage of letting people in, letting people trusting me, and I didn't really know what it was. Again, like all this understanding came in years later, but I was always 1 foot in, 1 foot out of these relationships. I was ready to run the moment I started to feel pain. And I mentioned I felt like an object. I felt like my only purpose on earth was for men's satisfaction, and that was deeply rooted, but I have to say, like, not all men view or use women in this way. That's not true. Thankfully, my male friends were able to help me with that, but I want to say that because I know a lot of women feel that way. I can understand because this perception can be perpetrated by all different societal, cultural, historical factors, and just like then you have like individual beliefs, like men who think they should have a podcast putting out some fucked up shit. You know what I'm talking about. Like, I remember, I'm saying this like this was a long time ago. It wasn't. Last weekend, I was hanging out with my mom's friends because I'm cool like that. And one of her friends was telling me how, like, in some countries, which I already knew this, but I forgot, it's not something I think about on the daily, like, they cut the woman's clit off because they don't believe women should have pleasure or allowed pleasure. Like, bro, that is so fucked up. I can't even imagine the traumatizing. Oh God, I can't even go into it because it will pull me in deep and I will be down the rabbit hole. But there you go, cultural views. Or like my mom, she just finished Bridgerton. I have yet to watch it, but she keeps going on and on about like the dowry and that women didn't have rights and that like literally they didn't really matter. They couldn't have a life or anything like that. And like it's just so mind blowing. Like social media or like pop culture, like the stereotypes and generals, porn, toxic masculinity, lack of respect or consent, like just to name a few, is how this shit is perceived or put out there. But I encourage you, this is probably going to sound a lot easier said than done because I get it, to find, though, the places that feel safe to you, the people that feel safe to you. Another huge, huge component of my healing journey that I almost forgot to mention, but I have to, was I'm part of these spiritual communities that we gather once a month. And the intention was for us to really go deep, to go as deep as we could go. And it was amazing. I didn't even expect this to come out 1 month, but we would meet like 6 months at a time, take a little 2-month break, and then meet again. But one of the months we met within the last year, I wound up just opening up and bawling my eyes out about this event. And I never opened up like that before. But it was because I finally felt safe within a community, within these people's energies where I wouldn't feel judged. And it was because of them that I was able to get to these understandings, because for the longest time, like, I would shame myself, I would blame myself, I would judge myself for this event. Like it was all my fault, like I could have stopped it. But it happened. And I was left to pick up the pieces. But by the grace of God and whoever is looking out for me up there, they led me in a beautiful direction. And that's when I asked, do you have any faith? I'm not saying you need to believe in a God. I'm not even saying you have to believe in a higher power. I think it really starts with believing in yourself, that you could figure out how to pull yourself out of the darkness, for you to figure out how to be your own light. Because it's possible. I promise. I know. I am proof. Another thing that I did not realize that was tied to this event is I felt so cut off from my maternal energy. So cut off. And like, as a woman, especially, most of us, that's our core energy, is feminine. Not everybody. Some women can have core masculine energies. And believe me, honestly, at times I thought my core was masculine because I was so deep into that masculine energy to protect myself from ever getting hurt again. I could not open my heart. I could not be vulnerable. I had struggled with intimacy. I could not flow. I had to constantly be in control just to protect myself. Like, oh my God. I really sat and thought, like, damn, is my core masculine? But no, I feel like my core is feminine. And being a woman, I was going to say it's innate, but honestly, it's not, because women have been abused and put down for years that we close off from this maternal energy because we're so hurt that it makes us hard for wanting to like pour our love. And this goes back to the sacral chakra being unbalanced. I feel like our sacral chakra, that's our womb. That's our womb energy. That's where we create, and not just create like a project or an art, but that's where we create life. We literally create life. We have the power to bring in life to this world, and that gets cut off. That gets unbalanced. And now all of a sudden, I'm like, I don't want kids. I still don't know if I want kids. I feel like, let me tell you, hold on, little tangent. Actually, hold on. Before I get off in that tangent, let me say why I didn't want kids, because I was so gun ho on, I do not want to bring something into this fucked up world. What if I'm not a conscious enough parent to where my child has all these wounds and then they experience something like that? Because, oh, yeah, hold on. We're about to get into it. I have to pause that tangent. I'll come back around to it though. Because one of the other things I felt, oh, and I kind of don't want to put this out there because I'm afraid that if they listen to it, it'll upset them, but I gotta speak my truth. I love my parents to death. Believe me, they've done so much for me in so many ways, even now more so when I'm older and I can be conscious of it and remember it. But I think as a child, I did not get the emotional needs that I needed met. And especially more towards my father, one of the emotions I felt around this was a lot of anger and resentment towards him, because I felt like maybe if he would have called me pretty more when I was younger, or acknowledged me and my beauty when I was younger, I wouldn't go seeking for male's attention, and maybe I wouldn't have wound up where I wound up that night. And that's so hard to say because I'm understanding and I get it. And our parents were worried about other things, or they had their own shit going on, and they couldn't really be that conscious individual. But now they grew up and they have the opportunity to, but the damage has already been done. And I feel guilt for saying that because my dad has done so much for me. So much. He has shown up in so many ways, but the truth is, just emotionally, he was never present. And so I felt for a long time a lot of anger and resentment towards him, because I felt like, damn, Maybe if I had a healthy upbringing and I had a good relationship with my father emotionally, I wouldn't go seeking or attracting these emotionally unavailable men. And that's real as hell, man. Oof. Goddamn. I feel really guilty for saying that. I do. Like I mentioned, because I'm so understanding, dude, like I don't even blame the person who did this to me. I don't. I feel anger and rage. I do. So I guess in some areas I blame them, but like I'll take a step back and like I'll fall into this understanding, which doesn't dismiss the emotion. Technically, this is kind of called spiritual bypassing. Um, I look at it like, I don't know, I think sometimes guys they don't even think about shit like this. Like they don't think that far into it. I don't know. I know some do. Maybe I'm justifying too much. I don't know. But for a while, I was like, I can't blame them. I just don't even think men see it like that. I don't want to receive any shit for that either. Keep it to yourself. That's just something I felt. But then recently, 2 months ago, he was at the bar I was at. This is probably only the second time I've saw this guy after this experience. And it shocked me at first. And I was kind of just taken back. And I was like, you know what? I told myself in my mind, I'll deal with this later. I want to enjoy my night. I'm here with my friends. We're celebrating a birthday. Like, we're going to have a good time. And I did. And I was fully present. And I enjoyed myself. And I enjoyed my night. But when I got home, I couldn't sleep. When I got home, I cried for hours. And when I got home and I was laying down in my bed, not being able to sleep, I generally scared myself with the thoughts I had about if I ever had the opportunity to take revenge or if I ever wanted to seek revenge, what I would do to him. I never knew I could be so violent. But I said to myself, we're just going to feel it. And we did. And eventually, when the sun came up and I knew my cousin was up, my cousin Jen, I FaceTimed her and I just let it all out. I'm like, listen, I don't need advice right now. I just need a witness. I just need you to hold space. And I told her everything I was feeling. I was like, dude, it just makes me so mad that he's still walking around. And granted, I guess you can argue that it's my fault because I decided to not ever press charges. Like, I don't know. That's not something that came across my mind as a need. I know people are going to argue, but you stop him from doing it for other individuals, but you weren't there that night. You didn't see exactly what went down and how it all happened. And no, I'm not going to explain it. But I believe in my spirit team, and I know karma never forgets an address. What you put out is what you get back. I'll let God handle that. Again, this is my experience. I just say that because I feel like as I was saying that shit out loud, like, y'all gonna have your opinions, and that's fine. You absolutely can. But again, I don't want to hear it. Keep it to yourself. So let's recap real quick so I can get my train of thought again. Didn't want to bring kids into this world because I was afraid of, like, what if they experience something like that, or what if I'm not a good enough parent and they're walking around with all these unhealed wounds. 2, felt a lot of rage and resentment against my parents and my father especially. 3, felt a lot of rage and horrible thoughts. Terrifying towards the guy who did this to me. But I allowed myself to feel it all, and it wasn't always like that though. Like, as I said, I felt a lot of shame, and with shame comes a lot of judgment. However, a couple months ago, I feel like this was October, I had a dream where one of my first ever gym crushes, going way back, like 2020, 2020, was in it, and he's in law enforcement. And I had a dream where I felt like everyone in my town was after me, and he was in the car driving, and I was like, please, like, you have to help me. So he took me in and brought me to safety, and I just remember emotionally feeling when I woke up so safe. And throughout the entire day, I was thinking about this dream. And it wasn't until when I came back home after work at night, like 9 p.m., I'm in my bed, I'm thinking about it. I was like, dude, I don't think I ever felt that safe before in my life from a man, not even from my own father. You know, he always made me feel physically safe. Honestly, terrified the shit out of me growing up. That type of safety. Like, you know, if you ever bring a guy home and he's cleaning his fucking gun on the couch, type of safe. But emotionally, no, never felt safe. Never felt safe enough to open up and tell him this, which is why I feel so much anxiety right now putting this out there, because if he does listen, I don't know, maybe he'll heal all this and maybe want to have a conversation about it. And I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. But then after having that realization, when I was in my bed, I broke down. And when I tell you I broke down, I have not cried this hard in ages. And I'm the type of individual where I cry at least once a week because I'm a big believer. I'm like, you gotta get that shit out. If you're feeling it, just let it out. It's not always like a big fiasco. Maybe it's just 30 seconds. And it feels good and I feel relief. But this cry, I'm screaming into the pillow. And I just felt like I finally felt everything because my mind just kept going back to this night in April of 2021 of everything. But I was so conscious in this moment. I was so present that I said to myself, like, Mia, continue to feel it. Just feel it. Don't judge it. Don't judge yourself. Feel it. Accept it. Be fully present in it. Let it out. And I swear to God, it was the most liberating thing I could have ever done for myself. Because growing up, and honestly to that point, I would always judge my feelings. I never thought my feelings were validated. I never thought they were justified. But it was so much pain that I just couldn't. There was no way I could keep it in. And if I'm feeling it, then it's real. And that's validation enough. And it was everything. It was the anger I felt towards the man who did this to me. It was the sorrow I felt towards my younger self for not knowing anything at the time to help her. It was the fear, the insecurities, the guilt, the shame. It was everything. It just bubbled to the surface and erupted like a volcano. And for about 5 minutes, I let it all out. And when I came to the end of it, this thought dropped in from the heavens into my mind. It said, Mia, you just gave yourself that safe space. What you have never felt in a man before, you gave it to yourself. Because I think as women, we're always conditioned to go seek help outwardly. That we can't figure this shit out on our own, but I did that. I was there for myself. I picked myself back up. And not only that, I didn't judge myself, which was a huge fucking thing. But I'm very faithful and I have so much hope that now I know what it feels like to have that emotional safety and that physical safety, thanks to my dad. That I'll find that in a man one day. And I look forward to it. But if it wasn't for that moment, I don't know if I ever would understand what emotional safety would feel like to that degree. To completely be so shameless. And oh my God, that was the most empowering thing I have ever experienced in my life. That I had my own back, that I picked myself up. I've picked myself up in the past, man. I have. When I tell you there's so much behind the scenes shit that you'll never see, but it just looks like me fighting myself, punching myself, and yet I'm the one picking myself back up. And here I am in this moment of vulnerability, something that took so long to get back to. Because I was afraid for so long what people may think, or just shaming and judging myself. Oh my God, I'm unstoppable now. To create that safe space inside yourself, that peace, man, it's possible. It is, and I hope you guys all find it. You know, I'd always say before that I had that night that I had went through some of the darkest moments of my life alone. I had people around me, but I didn't know how to open up. It wasn't normal for me to open up. I was afraid to. And I was really thankful for those moments because I knew that I didn't need anybody, that I would always be able to figure this out. And although I knew that I didn't need anybody and that I could figure this shit out on my own, and even in this moment too, it's all beautiful and it's liberating and it's so empowering, but I will always stand on the fact that just because I can do it doesn't mean I want to. I think it's so important to have connections that you can run to in moments of complete terror and defeat. where you can take your armor off. And I may not have a romantic relationship, and by any means am I in the rush to get to one, but I have an amazing support system around me, and I'm so thankful for them. I'm so thankful for their support and their encouragement through getting back to the podcast, but also through this time in my life where I didn't have the words. Oh man, what a life. It feels good to let that out. I'm sitting here thinking, all right, like, is there anything else I need to put in this podcast? I'm going to get back to that tangent that I put on pause. My tangent is about having kids. As a 25-year-old, I feel like, and also a 25-year-old who's single, I feel like I have to have this shit really figured out, because the next person I get involved with and commit to me is going to be the last one. I'm done. I'm not doing no more talking stages. Like, we're in it. And I don't want to show up and have them, the guy, really wanting kids and me unsure about it, and them thinking I'm going to change my mind in 40 years. I'm not 40. I don't want to be 65 having kids. But 10, 15 years down the line, them finding out I never changed my mind and we just wasted 15 years of each other's life. Also not saying we ever waste time, but like, I just don't think that's fair, which is why I'm trying to figure out if I really want kids or not. My stance right now is I think I'm just really in like a selfish 25-year-old mindset where I'm like, nah, fuck them kids. Like, I want to enjoy myself. I want to be independent. I want to have dual income, no kids, and travel the world and just build my business and build my brand and help people and have that time. Holy shit, I almost dropped my Stanley. And have that time for myself. But then I also have this thought where I feel like if and when I meet the man I'm going to marry, I'm going to want to see them as a father, and not only want to see them as a father, I'm going to want to create life with them, and I'm going to want to bring life into this world, and I'm going to want to do everything differently. Because although as much as I do have my doubts and fears about fucking up raising a child, I also do believe in myself. And I think that would be an amazing experience when the time comes. And I look forward to my mind changing. We'll see, though. We'll see. Yeah, all right, guys. I know this has been a roller coaster of a ride for the last 2 episodes, but this is so important to me. And if you'd listened this far, oh my God, you mean the world to me. Thank you so much for listening. If you could, share, like, comment, subscribe, follow. That would help me so much, and also help get my story out there to those who also really need it. Please, again, if you're struggling with sexual assault or emotions or just life in general, I've put resources down in the description box below. Reach out. And also, please know you are not alone in this. And I love you guys so much, and I'm sending you guys so much healing. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next wave. Bye.